Hi everybody, happy Friday. I am excited to read with you The Wild Robot Escapes, starting with Chapter 10, The Routine. Reader, I don't want to bore you with every detail of our robot's farm routine. Many of her tasks were incredibly dull. Others were quite unpleasant. I'll just say that on any given day, Roz might have to be a mechanic, a veterinarian, or a gardener, a plumber, a cleaner, or a landscaper, or a carpenter, or an electrician, or all of the above. Farm life kept Roz very busy indeed. Of course, she did have help. You already know about some of the machines, but the entire farm was equipped with technology that made life easier for everyone. Doors and gates opened automatically. The cows wore electronic collars that kept track of their health automatically. When a cow's udders were full, she simply had to stroll into the parlor where she'd be milked by gentle machines automatically. All that milk was piped into storage tanks and cooled and bottled automatically. And once the milk truck was loaded up, it drove away and made its deliveries automatically. Mr. Sharif managed the business side of the farm. He dealt with customers and handled money and ordered supplies, and he did it all from the comfort of his home office. Now that he had a robot to do all the farm work, he hardly ever left the house. Roz was more content than she had ever expected to be. Most of her time was spent outdoors, with the animals under the wide open skies. Even while laboring in the fields, she could always stop to smell the flowers, look up at the clouds, feel the cool air drifting out from the trees. And yet, Roz was living two lives. When she had the farm to herself, she could play with the calves or run through the grass or chat with the wildlife. But whenever the Sharifs were near, Roz had to pretend to be a normal robot. She could never let them know who she really was. Chapter 11, The Stragglers. Wild geese are known for migrating in the autumn and in the spring, but exactly when a flock migrates is up to its members. Some flocks choose to fly early in the season. Others straggle far behind. And it was one of those straggling flocks that caught the attention of our robot. Honk, honk, honk. The geese were heard before they were seen. Their honking voices echoed from across the farm, and then the flock appeared above the fields, flying in a wobbly V formation. They glided over the pasture and plunked down into the pond. None of them were very concerned as Roz approached. The geese had seen some similar creatures on other farms, and they knew there was nothing to fear. But they were about to learn that our robot was very different from the others. "Hello, geese," said Roz. "Welcome to Hilltop Farm." The geese froze. They stared at Roz with suspicious eyes, and then the biggest goose slowly swam over. "I've come across plenty of monsters like you," he said, "but I never met one who could talk. I am not a monster. I am a robot. My name is Roz." The goose scratched his head. "Well, it's nice to meet you, Roz the robot," he said at last. "My name is Wingtip, and this is my flock." Roz gave a friendly wave, and soon the flock was gathering around, curious to meet this odd character. As you can imagine, the geese were shocked to learn that Roz had a goose for a son. They asked her all kinds of questions about Bright Bill and about her old life on the island and about her new life on the farm. Then Roz asked them a question of her own. "Do you think Bright Bill's flock would ever come this way on their migration?" "Doubtful," said Wingtip. "It sounds like his flock takes the eastern flyways. They'd never come this far west." The robot slumped with disappointment. "However, we geese are full of surprises," added Wingtip. "I'll promise you this, Roz. If we ever meet Bright Bill, we'll point him in your direction." The talk was interrupted by giggling and barking. The children were taking their dog for a walk. Roz couldn't be seen chatting with geese, so she whispered a quick goodbye to her new friends and went back to work. And when she looked down at the pond later that day, she saw that the flock was gone. Here's a picture of Wingtip if you can see Wingtip. Looks pretty friendly. Chapter 12. The Homesick Robot. We all feel homesick at one time or another. Even the robot felt something like homesickness. Roz belonged with her son and her friends on her island. She was determined to find her way back there. But how? If the robot was seen doing anything unusual, Mr. Sharif might have her destroyed. Roz had to be careful. So she calmly went about her farm work day in and day out. But all the while, the homesick robot was secretly planning her escape. Chapter 13. The Electronic Signal. Beep, 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 beep. A message was flashing on Roz's computer. The drone was reporting that gusty winds had sent it spiraling into the neighbor's bean field. So the robot grabbed the big, heavy toolbox and marched out to clean up the mess. Roz found the flying machine upside down with its landing gear poking above the rows of leafy plants. It had some scrapes and scratches, but no major damage. She flipped it over, brushed it off, and tightened a few screws, and then she said, "Return to Hilltop Farm." The engine started buzzing and the machine lifted off the ground and flew home. As Roz marched back, she cut through a strip of forest that separated the two farms. There were trees and ferns and rocks and shrubs and small forest animals. It was a little piece of wilderness. Suddenly, the robot was thinking of that wild island. Oh, she missed it so much. Someday she would try to run away and return to her true home. Was this the moment for her escape? Could it be as easy as sneaking off through these trees? No, oh no, it couldn't be that easy. Ahead, on the other side of the trees, Mr. Sharif was sitting in his pickup truck, watching Roz. Because of the robot's electronic signal, he knew she had stepped off the property. And he raced out there to see what she was up to. Roz marched over to the truck, and Mr. Sharif leaned out his window. He had a serious expression on his face. "Don't you ever leave this property without my permission. Understand?" "I understand," said Roz. She understood all right. She understood that she was always being watched. She understood that she was trapped on Hilltop Farm. Ooh. So this is a picture of Mr. Sharif, and you see Roz right in the cockpit or the front part of the truck. I forget what you call that. Chapter 14. The Sad Truth. That night, while everyone else was sleeping, Roz stayed up with her computer and she researched sneaky subjects. She looked for diagrams of her own body and for maps of the area and for any news that might help her escape. But the robot found nothing. The computer only let her access information about farming. She was cut off from the rest of the world. Kind of reminds me of Serenity, you know. It was clear that if Roz wanted to escape from her new life, she would need help. But the cows, they didn't know how to escape. Mr. Sharif, he would never let her leave. Who would possibly help Roz run away from the farm? Chapter 15. The Children. As time rolled by, Roz saw less and less of Mr. Sharif, but she saw more and more of the children. They were shy at first. The robot might look up from the pasture and see Jad peeking around the corner of the barn, or see Jaya spying from the branches of a tree. But the children were growing bolder. And then one day, Roz marched into the workshop and heard giggling. She walked to the closet in the back, opened the door, and there was Jaya, smiling, but trying not to laugh. "I'm hiding from my brother," whispered the girl. "Close the door." The robot closed the door. A minute later, Jad ran in, flushed and out of breath. "Hey, Roz, have you seen Jaya?" The robot just stared. "I know she's here," said Jad, and he began prowling around the room. He searched under the work table and behind the tool chest and between the bulky workshop machines. Finally, he marched up to Roz and said, "I order you to show me where my sister is hiding." The robot pointed to the closet. Jad smiled mischievously and tiptoed over. Then he flung open the door and screamed, "Found you!" "No fair," Jaya whined. "Roz showed you where I was hiding." The girl scowled at the robot. "That wasn't very nice, Roz. But you can make it up to me by playing hide and seek. Count to 100 and then try to find my brother and me, okay?" There was a brief pause. Then the robot said, "Okay." Jaya and Jad squealed with delight and scampered out the door as Roz started counting. The robot's sensitive ears listened carefully to the children outside. She heard quick footsteps crunching across the driveway. She heard a giggle and the sounds of tree branches shaking. She heard a grunt and the sounds of hay bales being shoved aside. When the robot finished counting, it took her exactly 5 seconds. She found Jaya up in a tree. And then another 8 seconds. She found Jad in the hayloft. "Wow, Roz is really good at seeking," said Jad, as he picked hay from his hair. "Yeah," Jaya snorted. "Well, let's just see how good she is at hiding." Roz was even better at hiding. While the children counted, the robot silently slipped away. And an hour later, they still hadn't found her. The siblings stood in the driveway, defeated. "We give up, Roz!" shouted Jad. "You win!" shouted Jaya. The junk pile beside the barn started moving, and Roz appeared. The robot had been sitting there all along, perfectly camouflaged among scrap metal of old farm machines. "The next time we play, you've got to let one of us win," said Jaya to Roz. And the next time they played, Roz did. The robot enjoyed having the children around. They brought a little lightness into her world, and she hoped to bring a little lightness into theirs. Life must have been dark since their mother passed away. However, Roz had another reason for wanting the children around. She needed them. Her only chance of ever returning home was if Jaya and Jad could find it in their hearts to help her escape. But this was a delicate situation. If Roz tried too hard, the children might say something to their father. If she didn't try hard enough, she might be stuck on the farm forever. Here's a cute picture of Roz playing with the children. You see it? Oops. Isn't that cute? Look at those long robot legs. Chapter 16. The Robot's Dream. Cows grazed in the pasture. Wind rustled through the tall grass. Clouds drifted over the fields. Farm machines rumbled and buzzed. Milk flowed into bottles. Bottles were packed into boxes. Boxes were loaded onto the milk truck. The truck drove away full and returned empty. Children romped around with their dog. A man sat at his desk. And a robot dreamed of escape. Well, this is a very good way, I think, to end our read aloud today. I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit like Roz sometimes these days. I want you to enjoy your day, play outside, and know we love you. See you soon.